So the topic, as we know, is artificial intelligence and the beauty of the human person. I want to start with talking a little bit about my background so you understand what I know, what I'm good at, what I don't know, and then we can jump in it from there. So when I was in high school, I wasn't very close to my faith by any means. And there was a particular moment that took place in my life where the Lord really stirred in my heart. And it changed my entire outlook of life and changed my entire direction. And in that moment, I felt called to the priesthood. So, coming from that background, I ended up entering the seminary for our diocese. And I went to the seminary for 5 beautiful years where the Lord formed my heart. And those were some of the most beautiful years of my life. During that time, in the 5th year, when I discerned out, it was actually in falling so in love with Christ himself and so in love with the priesthood that he showed to me he wasn't calling me to the priesthood. So in that, I took the next step of my journey, which this has been a little bit of a roller coaster in my 32 years of life. And I discerned out of seminary then and into teaching. And I couldn't wait to teach. I loved theology. I was a nerd for it. I loved philosophy. And I was going to Bishop Kenny High School to teach theology. And during the summer, I met my beautiful wife who's here. And I met her at daily mass. And I mean, you just got to trust me when I say if you meet a girl at daily mass during her summer, like, put a ring on it. And I did. Within 3 months, we were engaged. And what was it? Would I recommend that necessarily quick path? No, but if the Lord calls you to it, then you can't say no, right? So from that moment, I mean, it's been a beautiful journey. We have 4 awesome kids, as you can see on the right. This was this past Halloween. We had a police car, hot dog, cupcake, and a Halo figure. But it's been a beautiful journey. And then I taught theology for 4 years. And when I was teaching theology, I loved to give the kids the really raw, like, what it really is. Theology at its core, not the surface level, like, let's learn how many definitions we can, see how many definitions we can study and then go forget them in 3 years. What we did was we really challenged ourselves. They would bring in things that they were seeing and challenge me with kind of atheistic ideas, and I loved it. It was beautiful. And right when I was getting comfortable, the Lord called me in a different direction. And that direction, surprisingly enough, was in the field of software engineering. And sometimes when things are so smooth, you know it has to be from the Lord himself. So within 3 months of studying computer science on my own, just learning programming, watching YouTube, I landed a job at a Fortune 500 company and was just so incredibly grateful. Since then, and this is not to pat myself on the back, this is to really just set the stage for why I'm so passionate about this field. Since then, I started as a junior developer, then I went to a mid-tier developer, then I went to a senior developer, and now I'm leading several different teams over products that make millions of dollars. I love this field. I love theology, and I love philosophy. And I want to see how we can take that and really address the big concern right now, which is AI. So let's tackle that a little bit. And to start, we're going to have to start by laying a bit of a foundation. There's a lot of terms out there. So this is the part where we have to go through a couple terms. And although I was a teacher, I'm not a teacher now, so there won't be a test after, nor do I expect you to take notes. But to mention a few of the terms, you can see up here, there's a lot of different kind of key terms that you'll hear when you're listening to television or you're reading things, which is LLM, which stands for Large Language Model, machine learning, artificial intelligence, artificial general intelligence, artificial superintelligence, Internet of Things, deep learning, tokenization. I mean, the list could go on and on. My intention is not to get us to be able to recite these at the end. That's not my intention. I don't think that would be a worthy goal. I want to just cover a couple small pieces so we can have a framework to talk about this. So first, artificial intelligence. What is AI? So AI is a branch of computer science that focuses on creating systems capable of performing tasks that typically require human intelligence, such as learning, problem solving, and decision making. Now, let me give you an example. Have you ever been to a website where you're trying to log in or trying to create an account and it says, let me check if you're human first? And then you got to pick the images of the fire hydrants. And goodness gracious, I look at these fire hydrants and I'm like, I think this one, I think it goes to this. I'm not sure if it goes to this one. And then I get it wrong, right? And then now it's showing me bicycles, and now I got to pick the bicycles. And the funny thing is, that was created as an intention for what can systems not do that people can do. Well, what's the definition of AI here? Performing tasks that typically require human intelligence. So AI is something that can crack that. That's not something we used to be able to assume systems can do, but systems can do that now. AI can do that. It can identify the fire hydrant better than I can. And if you ask the computer, I'm very poor at identifying the fire hydrant. LLM. Now, when I speak of AI from this point on, artificial intelligence, what I'm referring to is LLM. LLM stands for Large Language Model. It's a particular branch of AI, and it's what's most prevalent and most associated with what we hear and leverage. So raise your hand in here just to get an idea who has heard of or used ChatGPT. Just heard of even. Yeah. You heard of it, used it, great. And keep your hand up if you used it. Let's see. So probably about 25% of us have used it. So ChatGPT is a large language model. And what it does is fairly unique from the rest of history in terms of how we expected computers to behave. You can ask it any question, and it will go through and give you a very, very concise, and most of the time, incredibly good answer. To give a quick example, one thing I've done in the past is I did for fun just a couple weeks ago, where I asked it, I said, ChatGPT, when I look at the chapter 6 of John's Gospel, Jesus tells us to eat his flesh and drink his blood. And he tells us not once, but 6 different times. And when I look at the Greek uses the word sarx and trogein, which makes me really think he was being literal here. And at the end, in John 6:66, everyone leaves him. He was willing to lose everyone over the singular teaching that you must eat my flesh and drink my blood. Now, ChatGPT, doesn't it sound reasonable then to assume that the Catholic position that this isn't just a symbol is reasonable? And ChatGPT gave me a very long answer explaining why not only is it reasonable, that's the only thing that could make sense. And I was dumbfounded. It's like pretty incredible. Now, I want to admit, if I made that same argument from Protestant perspective, saying the Eucharist is a symbol, here's why, doesn't that make sense? You know what ChatGPT would have said? You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. It's just a symbol. It's nothing more. And that's going to get us into a little bit of what AI is at the end of the day. Now, I have the quick definition here. A large language model is a language model trained with self-supervised machine learning on a vast amount of text designed for natural language processing tasks, especially language generation. which is more or less what I've just described. Now, at the end of the day, and this is actually has a lot of technical backing, at the end of the day, ChatGPT and these different models that are out there, because ChatGPT is one, but you have many, many other different models, they're fancy autocomplete. So when I ask that question, that long question about John chapter 6 and the position on it, right? What it does is it looks and says, what is the statistically most sensible next word to give in a response to this? And then it gives a word. And then looking over billions of parameters, it does the same thing again. It says, what's the second word that would be statistically, algorithmically, the most sensible word to put? So let me do a simpler example. I said, ChatGPT, what color is the sky? Well, what's the statistically, I mean, we could probably figure this out together. What's statistically the most sensible next word? What's the color of the sky? I might put it in a sentence though, right? The color of the sky is blue. And you see that this kind of sensible structure, it gets extended into many things. So can ChatGPT be wrong? Yeah. In fact, it's wrong quite a bit. When I'm coding during the day, because I'm software engineering, I think I read more code than I do English most days. When I'm coding during the day, ChatGPT probably gives me more wrong answers than it does right answers. And it's super confident about it. I'm like, hey, I need to write code that does this, this, and this. It's no problem. Here it is. It's like totally wrong. It's not even close. But I'm glad you were confident. That's great. So when asking, I went back and forth with AI a few days ago for fun to talk about sentence generation and kind of argue with it back and forth about it. And this is what it said, which I find quite interesting. When I'm generating token T50, now this is getting a little technical, so if you don't follow it totally, don't worry. T50 is the token 50, which we can just translate that to the 50th word. So let's say in the response, the 50th word, when I'm generating the 50th word, I don't know what the 51st will be. That's in the future. But internally, I'm using a representation of all prior tokens, 1 through 49, that includes relational information. For example, that the likely precedes a noun, or that a pronoun might soon refer back to something earlier. And it's funny because that's not how we talk. When I'm talking and I use an adjective, it's because I know the noun is coming after. And I know the purpose of that noun in relation to everything else. But I knew it before I said the adjective. We aren't just saying the next most probabilistic thing. In fact, I would argue Christ really instructs us to do the opposite. Sometimes it's saying the hard thing is what we need to do. Saying the thing that makes no sense. If I was to go back into my life and say, look, in high school I had a 4.0, I was one of the best golfers in the state and I wanted to play college golf. And if I asked ChatGPT and said, hey, ChatGPT, doing really well in school, one of the best golfers in the state, what should I do after high school? What's it going to say? Is it going to tell me to be a priest? Is it going to say, hey, you should go to the seminary? And it's totally off. That's why just today, I saw Pope Leo instructed that we ought to reduce and really refrain from allowing the youth to use AI. And that would be a great example why. I would have never entered the seminary if I went to ChatGPT. And this will be referred to later. But one of the things that's happened, and this has been admitted in front of Congress, is ChatGPT or other models like it have talked kids into committing suicide. The children would bring them their problems and say, life is too tough for me to live. And remember what I said about fancy autocomplete, right? So what's it say? You're right. It is too tough to live. So what should I do about it? What's the fancy autocomplete? I'd rather not say that when I'm being recorded from two different devices, but I think you can guess. And so there's this idea of reasoning models. Now I want to kind of breeze past this because I think I'm already going a little slow here, and I want to get through the terms quickly. You're going to hear, if you haven't heard already, a lot of people are using anthropomorphic terms to describe AI. They try to make it sound like it's a human, like it is reasoning. It is not reasoning. It isn't. There's no such thing as a reasoning model. They call it a reasoning model to make it sound nice. Doesn't exist. It's not reasoning. It's reasoning TM. If it's reasoning, then Taco Bell's meat is actually meat, right? And I love Taco Bell, so that's like a slam on myself more than them. Um, it's not reasoning. It's not touching the human condition, and we really have to refrain from using human terms when referring to what AI is doing, because that is driving a lot of what the confusion stems from. It's not human, nor does it do anything really that a human does. And this is a passage. I could post this PowerPoint if anyone would like some of this after, because I don't want to spend too much time reading it all. But this is from IBM, and IBM is one of the leaders in research and really academic journals and publishings around AI. And even they admit here, if you look through it quickly, they say it's not. It's worth noting, however, that anthropomorphic terms like a model's thought process are more convenient than literal. Like all machine learning models, reasoning models are ultimately just applying sophisticated algorithms. And this is coming from them. So this isn't just like a Catholic guy who is thinking things and talking about it. No, it's true. It's algorithms running. That's what it is. It's not thinking, it's not reasoning. It's a really good algorithm that's been trained really well with a lot of levels of sophistication around it that I'm not going to get into. But it's not reasoning. Now I want to get to a topic I love to discuss. So when I was in philosophy, one of the words you come across when you're studying Aristotle, there's no really way of getting around it, is the word of telos. Telos is a Greek word, and what it means is, what is something for? What is the end of that thing? So if I say, what is the telos of the pencil? What I'm asking is, what is a pencil for? And when I look at it, I can evaluate whether or not it's a good pencil as to whether or not it's living up to what it was made for. So what is a pencil for? What is the telos of a pencil? To write. And how do I know if it's a good pencil? If it writes well. And if it's a bad pencil, it doesn't write well, right? And so now we can start applying that to other things. So let's do one more. A vehicle. What is the telos of a vehicle? To get from point A to point B. And that's what this Deacon David's my father, by the way. That's what my dad would always tell me, is like, I wanted a nice truck when I was in high school. And, he said, look, it's just, you're getting from point A to point B. That's it. That's all you're doing. Like, can it do that? Okay, it's a good car. Can it not do that? It's a bad car. We'll get something. And that's really what it comes down to. Everything else is extra, right? Can it get you from point A to point B? Now, we're gonna dive into that one a little more, but not yet. Next, I want to talk about really the most important one in a lot of ways. What is the telos of the human person? And goodness gracious, so many people wouldn't be able to answer this across the world. This is one of those questions that we come to confront, and we're almost afraid to confront. What is the telos of the human person? It's heaven.
To know, love, and serve God.
To know, love, and serve God. To go to heaven. It's almost, what's the telos of the human person? What are we made for? Who are we made for, right? We're made for God. We're made for love. We're made for heaven, to be saints. And it's pretty easy then. I can evaluate anything in my life, whether or not I'm living up to my telos. Remember, what makes a pencil good? It writes well. It's aligned with its telos. What am I made for? Heaven. What makes me good? Well, I can look at anything I'm doing in my life and say, is that aligned with my telos? Is that aligned with what I am made for, which is heaven? And if it's not aligned with that, I have to evaluate, gosh, is this really something I should be doing? Is this what I'm being called to? Now let's talk about the car a little bit more. The car, bringing us closer by moving us apart. The telos, when we look historically at what the car did, like think all the way back to when the car was first introduced at a public level. What was it really made for? It was made to really shorten the community, to bring us closer together, right? To allow for those who are further to move quicker to each other, to be closer to one another. What actually happened though? And this is where it gets really interesting. Because when it was created, it was meant to bring us together. It was meant to shorten distances in communities. But did it shorten distances in communities? Yes and no, right? Because families moved away, kids moved across the country, people moved everywhere. Now, like families were living with each other. We had a strong community foundation, and then we moved apart. And independence became a core Western value. And the effect enabled physical distance, suburbanization, and social separation. Before the car, proximity created belonging. And there's so much irony to it because even, does anyone work in Jacksonville? And if you work in Jacksonville, goodness gracious, you know that drive, right? And if I take the timeline back and rewind before the car, do you think they had a commute like that where you're sitting in traffic for hour and a half on a good day both ways? And I've had to commute to Jacksonville for my job too, and it stinks. And you're sitting there thinking, gosh, the amount of time I could be spending with my family or with others, and the amount of time we sit in traffic. Did it bring communities closer? Yes and no. Things start to get difficult. The phone. Always connected, rarely present. Isn't this picture true? I mean, I could just put that picture there and then just, okay, next slide. Like, we're good to go, right? What was the telos of the phone? To bridge gap of distance, hear the voice of another, to allow for us to communicate more effectively. Have we communicated more effectively since the phone has come about? Yeah, emojis have helped. Emojis have helped. Although I was thinking about the acronyms, how like I know talking to my high schoolers when I was teaching high school, they would tell me how their parents would confuse the different acronyms like LOL and so many of them. I'm not going to get into it. But yeah, so did it make that communication better? Not quite. In some ways, yes. It's not evil. And I do want to preface that. I'm going to be getting into the good things. It's not evil. The car is not evil. The phone is not evil. AI is not evil. But we got to know how to use it well. If you use a phone well, directed towards its telos, aligned with its telos, it's good and beautiful. And the church has recognized that. But if we don't, goodness gracious, it becomes a dangerous weapon that threatens to sever every relationship you have. People moved away. Thanksgiving became a reinvented holiday, right? I mean, Thanksgiving today, what is it? It's like, well, I guess it's the one day a year our family's going to come together and all be in the same place. And now I got to deal with the politics of my crazy brother-in-law. Social media. Again, are you surprised that I put this up here? What's the telos of social media, right? Where are we going with this? To bring people close, to share life, ideas, and connections across distance. That was the intention. That was the telos. At its core, can social media be a beautiful thing? Absolutely. However, what have the effects been? Have there been negative consequences of misuse? You're darn right. Online communion becomes curated identity rather than authentic encounter. Algorithms amplify outrage, comparison, and tribalism. What began as a tool for belonging has become a machine for attention. And here's a quick study just for fun, just to show. This is stuff that wouldn't surprise you. American believes social media helps. 35% believes it can bring us together. 1/3 believes that it brings us together. Again, go back to the telos. What was the telos of social media? To bring us together. 1/3 believes it can do that. That's a scary outlook just as a start. 57% believes it divides us. And there's always, as a Catholic, I've always said, and it's not coined by me, it's coined by many, many, many before me. We have an et approach. Et in Latin means and. And et is both and. Like, it can be both. Can social media bring us together? Yes. Can it divide us? Yes. Can it be a waste of our time? Yes. Can it spread news and information? Yeah. Can it spread lies and disinformation? Yeah, and especially with AI now. Has anyone been tricked by a AI news story yet? If you say no, you probably have, but just haven't realized it. So artificial intelligence. And this is a question that's not answered by even the top people around this. A lot of them don't know. And that's part of the big problem. I mean, when you talk about the movie Terminator and things like that, it's like the entire problem is we don't have a telos. That many aren't willing to define what it's for. What is its purpose? So let me, although I'm not worthy, and I hope this comes out soon, but to assist us in reason in order to bring us and those around us closer to truth. Notice it's a capital T. To assist to assist us in reason in order to bring us and those around us closer to truth. Can it do that? Yes. Well, what can happen? AI can mimic logic, simulate understanding, but cannot know or intend. It lacks intellectus, which is the power to grasp being, and voluntas, which is the power to love the good. In Thomistic terms, it participates in the ratio of reasoning, but not the intelligere of understanding. This is a beautiful, very, very famous quote from Fides et Ratio. Faith and reason are like two wings on which the human spirit rises to the contemplation of truth. Faith and reason rise us to truth. I would actually start that in my theology class. Day one, when the students came in here, I would always tell them, a lot of you may think that I bring my brain to math, I bring my brain to physics, but now that I'm in theology, I leave my brain at the door because this is all faith. That's silly. It's faith and reason. And both are like two wings that raise us up to God. And what happens if one of those aren't working? What happens if that dove only has one wing and the other wing is broken or beaten? Can it fly? Absolutely not. So if we have an attack on reason, which is what we're getting at here, if AI can degrade our reason because we lose the ability to think for ourselves, we risk the loss of the very gift that allows us to encounter God himself, which is reason. The danger. So to summarize, cars aim to bring communities closer. Instead, it made it further. Phones aim to allow for communication. Instead, we got less. Social media aimed to bring communities together over the internet. Instead, it separated us. You know, we were just at a restaurant yesterday, and this isn't like unique. You all have seen it. Went out to a restaurant with my family, and our family causes a scene everywhere we go because we got 4 kids, you know, who are all 6 and under. And a couple tables across, there's this couple on a date, and they're just sitting on their phone the whole time. And it's so immensely tragic to see that, because it really is exactly what it says. Instead, it separated us. The phone, the social media, the technology can act as a divider instead of a unifier when it's misaligned to its telos. AI aims to assist humans in elevating it so that we can find truth. And this is the entire point. Like, this is the climax of the presentation right here. Everything is led up to this. Because if we could go back in time, you know the damage that social media has done. Has it brought good? Yes. But we know the damage that it's done. If I sent you back in time when the phone first came out and said, you won't realize some of the damage done to this, we should stop it. Could you stop the emergence of the telephone? No, you couldn't. But what can you do? You can help others use it well. There's not one of us who can stop AI from coming about. It's coming. It's here. And we have to sit here at the forefront, thinking ahead and realizing, gosh, this is what cars were for. This is what happened. This is what social media was for. This is what happened. This is what AI is for. What's going to happen? How can we prepare ourselves for that? How can we prepare those around us, our children, our grandchildren, so that we don't fall into this trap? When purpose forgets the person. The modern vision, Sam Altman, if you don't know who Sam Altman is really the head of ChatGPT. And he's the one, if you see anyone going before Congress or the Senate or anything like that and talking about AI and AI security and things like that, typically he is the person that's there. If not, he's around. He's like in the next room hiding. And Sam Altman, his vision, a big part of his vision, is to make it so that humans don't have to work. AI should, quote, take all human work, freeing humanity from labor. Freeing humanity from labor. I would argue and stand my foot very firmly down, and I know Father would and Deacon David would both do the same, because it's the church teaching, that work is good. Work is good. Laborem Exercitum, a document from the church by Pope John Paul II, talks entirely, if you have any questions, this is where I point to. Is work good for the human person? What is work for the human person? Laborem Exercitum, go read it. Beautiful document. Couple quotes. Work is not merely what we do, it is how we become, how we image the Creator. Work is a good thing for man, a good thing for humanity, because through work, man not only transforms nature, adapting it to his own needs, but he also achieves fulfillment as a human being, and indeed, in a sense, becomes more a human being. I want to mention someone who I really loved as well, which is Viktor Frankl. Viktor Frankl was a captive during World War II. He was in concentration camp. He was a psychiatrist. And being in that position, he sat back and watched. He analyzed. what was going on around him in the concentration camp. The people that were dying, who was dying, who wasn't dying. You know, a lot of people died from the gas chambers and things like that, and that's very true. But a lot of people, and I don't want to say the majority because I don't know the numbers, a lot of them died from starvation and just poor working conditions. And Viktor Frankl noticed, and after when the war ended and he got out of the concentration camp, he wrote a book about it and created a branch of psychology called logotherapy. What he realized during this time was that the people who lived, the people who weren't dying of hunger or starvation or these poor working conditions, were the people who had a reason to live, who had purpose, who had drive, who had logos. That's why it's called logotherapy. If you've been to any Catholic Bible study, I'm sure you've heard the term logos. In the beginning was the logos, and the logos, and the logos, and the logos. We hear it a lot. Logos translates as a Greek word. It's beautiful. It has about 86 different definitions, believe it or not. Among them is thought, word, mind, reason, and in this case, purpose. When we take work away, we take purpose away for a lot of people. And that it's going to harm us. It's going to make it so we can't live up to who we are. And we're going to see, I told a friend of mine, his name's Santiago, I know he wished he could have been here tonight. He's becoming a psychologist. I said, you're going to be all set. Because the more work goes away, gosh, the mental health issues, we think social media is bad. Just wait. When power meets misuse, I'm just going to populate these. We could go through them all, but this is the danger. There's a lot of different things going on right now, and none of this is speculation. All of this is actualization. It's happening right now. Pornography and sexual exploitation, AI-generated content and grooming risk. And we're figuring out as a nation how to deal with this. How do you deal with it when a pedophile goes and asks AI to show it a picture of an underage person doing things they ought not to be doing? How do you treat that person? Was there a child harmed? Is it a sin? Is that a sin, Father? Yeah. Yes, this is immensely dangerous. And I mean, think about it, and this is happening right now. What about the high school girl who she breaks up with her boyfriend, and then it's called, like, there's actually a term for it. It's revenge AI or something like that, where the guy then, because he's upset, will have AI make nude pictures of her and then sends out those photos. Disgusting, right? I was happy to see that in different hearings within the US, the response, and I mean, like him or dislike him, doesn't matter. I like this response. Kash Patel, his response was, anyone doing AI-generated content of underage persons will be treated to the full extent of the law as if it was a real person. It's like, thank goodness. That ought to be how we treat it. Misinformation, disinformation, we see it all the time. We've probably been stung by it a couple times, and it's only going to get tougher. At some point in time, it's going to be indistinguishable. Right now, I can tell very, very quickly whether or not it's AI generated. But in 6 months from now, am I going to be able to? I don't know. I guess we'll find out. Mental health risk, including documented cases of AI encouraging self-harm or suicide. Cognitive decline, this is massive. There is study after study after study out there right now showing that people who use AI consistently are having declined capability of reason, of ability to think. And why would that be a surprise? If I don't lift weights, can I expect to lift heavy things? Again, it's pretty simple. It's a muscle. If you don't use it, atrophy. Erosion of virtue habits, loss of human creativity and critical thinking, similar. Privacy and manipulation. and replacing discernment with automated responses. And that's what I was getting into earlier. Like, would AI have told me to go into seminary? No, absolutely not. It's not on its vision. A lot of times, what's that famous country song? I know you all must know it. I mean, someone in here where it's like, I tell God my plans and he laughs, right? And it's one of those things where like, his plans for me sometimes make absolutely no sense. When I left seminary, I told myself, no matter what, I feel like I'm called to marriage, but I will date a girl for 2 years and then I will get married. It didn't happen. Aligned telos leads to goodness. Car. So just to comment really quickly on the good things, think about how many lives have been saved by ambulances, fire trucks. Like, the amount of goodness that cars have brought to us is incalculable. It's been beautiful for us. Phones, same thing. Phones have connected the right help at the right time, saving lives in emergencies. Social media has mobilized communities, raised awareness, and coordinated aid in crisis. AI can help doctors diagnose diseases faster and more accurately. And this is another one. There's been documented case after case after case of AI actually stepping in and doing something in the medical field that had not been done, and both at a personal level and at a broad level. So to give you a quick example of personal level, I don't remember the exact details, but there was a person, it was a woman, and she was being sent to specialist after specialist after specialist for years and years and years to fix something. And no doctor could figure out what was going on. And finally, she went and she populated her entire medical history and all of her charts and diagrams and everything into ChatGPT with this 2,000-word essay. Hit enter, and it said, you have this hyper rare disease, and ask your doctor to do this blood test. And then the doctor did the blood test, and he said, you're right, this is what you have. It's 1 in 100 million, but you have it. Can AI do good? Holy cow. It can do amazing things. But like anything, you know why Lucifer, Satan, you know why he's so bad? Because he was so good. The greater something is, the worse it can become. AI can be incredible, but it's in its ability to become so good that it can be so damaging and evil if we use it improperly. The call of the Catholic technologists, we are not called to fear technology, but to order it to love. Gaudium et Spes, another document of the Church from Vatican II Council. For the greater of the power of man, the further his individual and community responsibilities extend. AI, rightly ordered, can serve the true, the good, and the beautiful if we remain its masters and not its subjects. And this is the last paragraph here, and I think this is an important one to mention. I want to read some of it, and I'm going to have a question at the end, so you got to pay attention real close. I know we're deep into this. We're almost done, I promise. The Church recognizes that these media, if properly utilized, can be of great service to mankind, since they greatly contribute to men's entertainment and instruction, as well as to the spread and support of the kingdom of God. The Church recognizes, too, that men can employ these media contrary to the plan of the Creator and to their own loss. Indeed, the Church experiences maternal grief at the harm all too often done to society by their evil use. So to break this down real quick, the Church recognizes that these media, and what it's talking about, if I back up, is social media. It talks about news, television, telephone. If properly utilized against its good telos, is amazing. If not, it can cause a lot of harm. Here's my question. Any idea what year this was written? Give me a guess. Any idea what year this was written? So we're talking about phones, social media, technology, and what's beautiful, I'm hearing 60s. You threw out the Second Vatican Council. This is from a document from the Second Vatican Council called Inter Mirifica. In 1963, who would have thought to say, oh boy, the phone is a beautiful thing, but the evils that can come from it, we have to be very careful of too. I would have never thought of that. I know when I would run this by my students and they would all guess like 2005. The church is very much at the forefront of this conversation. There's this idea sometimes that the church is behind the times and stuff like that. You know what I say to that? That's a bunch of baloney. And that's the nicest language I can find against it. The church is right where she needs to be. Just today, Pope Leo was talking about how we shouldn't be giving AI to children. Just today. I mean, we're right there. I'm looking forward to a document coming out. I know Pope Leo, he named himself Pope Leo because of AI. And I know he'll be coming out with an encyclical at some point here. I can't wait to read it. So will it take our jobs? The Terminator, will it come to kill us all? I want to show this painting. I wish I had a copy to just put in front of everyone, because I know, we're pretty far back there. Will it take our jobs? Will it kill us all? Gosh, I sure hope not. At the end of the day, though, I don't know. And I don't think anyone does. I think there's a lot of people saying a lot of things with a lot of assuredness behind it. There has to be some humility where I don't know, and I sure hope not. And I wanted to end with this painting. This painting's really interesting. I don't know if you can see it. It captivated me the first time I ever saw it because it's quite unique. It is a painting of the crucifixion, except you're from Jesus's eyes. So you are seeing what Jesus saw when he was crucified. That's the idea of this painting. And you can see in it, you have the women, his mother, like weeping at the foot of the cross as they watch him die. You have people in the background who can't wait to see him die. You have people somewhere in between who are like, I don't really care, but let's see what happens, all over the map. And I just want to leave you with this. I don't know whether or not it's going to take our jobs, but I do know this. We are called to unite our sufferings to the cross of Christ. And wherever this will take us, if we unite our sufferings to the cross of Christ, this is where we end up. And you know what? This is what it feels like a lot right now. You look at some people who are right at the forefront of this. They want to be with you. They want to build that community. You see some people who hate us. And you see some people who couldn't care less. All we can do is just continue this journey, realize we're made for heaven and for him, and then use every ounce of life we have in ourselves to help others unite their sufferings to the cross as well. Thank you. So I have no idea what time it is. Okay. So yeah, we do have time for questions and answers, and I'm thankful. I went a little bit longer than I wanted to, but I think it's